They fell short this year, but the Pistons are coming back hungry next season. We're fixing them up on this edition of The Nest. Hello everybody, welcome back to The Nest RXP. My name is Robin, welcoming you back as we continue to cover NBA teams in their rebuilding offseason. And today we're tackling the Detroit Pistons, a team that I'm slowly falling in love with as I watch them play. They are a team that plays hard, they're a team that plays fast, and they're a team that just has a lot of players that I enjoy watching. Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duren, despite his horrendous playoff performance. I love watching them play, not to mention, I'm blanking on his name, Jenkins. I'm blanking on his first name, but Jenkins, I love watching him play. Tobias Harris, he can heat up a little bit at times, and obviously Osar Thompson defensively. This is a very interesting team that I'm slowly falling in love with, and I put a lot of effort into this specific rebuild because there's a lot of ways that it could go. So I'm going to be presenting a couple options for you today. But before we get into it, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the subscribe button, and make sure you go check out the Instagram and TikTok for more content specifically surrounding the NBA playoffs and just some short form content as teams continue their off season. So the first thing that I was looking at when I was rebuilding the Pistons was figuring out who the second option for Cade is going to be, because it's obviously not going to be Jalen Duren. Jalen Duren's going to be the third option in my opinion. He's going to be that guy that's mainly a defensive anchor, mainly a little more of a third option, at least for now, until he can flesh out his offensive role with Cade Cunningham. So I went through a couple guys that the Pistons could trade for, and there's a lot of options. There's a lot of guys that I think could work. But there's the third option that I'm going to present, I think is my favorite option. I'll explain why in just a minute. But the first option, you've seen before. I've brought it up in the Phoenix Suns and the Toronto Raptors videos, and it's trading for Brandon Ingram. And the trade looks something like this. So the Pistons will acquire Brandon Ingram, the Raptors will acquire Paul Reed and Devin Booker, and the Suns will acquire Duncan Robinson, Ron Holland, Chaz Lanier, Emmanuel Quickley, and Grady Dick, and probably the 21st pick from the Pistons as well. Maybe some other draft capital from the Raptors if need be. Now, I don't hate this idea. I think Brandon Ingram would be a fine fit alongside Cade Cunningham. I don't know, that's kind of two ball-heavy players that I think could coexist. I don't think it would be bad by any means, but his contract I don't care for with this roster, with needing to pay Jalen Duren as well. I kind of would rather go and find someone a little bit cheaper. So I did not end up going with this, but this is an option if you would like to. I also didn't really like the idea of giving up Ron Holland, Duncan Robinson, and all these other guys for Brandon Ingram. You would obviously have to, but I like Duncan Robinson's fit with this Pistons team. So I tried to keep him in some possible way. The next option that I went with is another guy that a lot of people have going to the Pistons this offseason, and that's Michael Porter Jr. The trade, you've seen it before probably from other people, and it looks just like Duncan Robinson, Karis LeVert, Ron Holland, Marcus Sasser, Chaz Lanier, and a 2026 first-round pick 21, for Michael Porter Jr. Again, you're gutting the depth of this team in order to get Michael Porter Jr., and I don't hate that. I think he's the perfect fit with this team, but again, that's $40 million you're going to have to pay Jalen Duren on top of it, and while he fits the best, and I like that more than I like the Brandon Ingram trade, this is also tough because you're giving up a lot of your depth, and you're going to have to re-sign and get some of your depth back. But it's up to you. If you wanted to do this, absolutely do it. I don't think it's a bad option, but this next option I have, I think is a little bit better. So the third option I have is not trading for a young star. It's pairing Cade with an older star to kind of fill the gap until Jalen Duren's ready, and then you can move off of that star and get someone else who's a little bit younger back, possibly for cheaper, possibly in free agency. And it looks something like this. So the Kings will acquire Karis LeVert and Chaz Lanier, as well as 2 second-round picks, and the Pistons will acquire DeMar DeRozan. Now, this is a kind of a cheap trade for DeMar DeRozan. You might need to give up pick 21 in order to get DeMar, which I don't know if I would do. I would try and wiggle it, maybe give a protected pick instead. But I like DeMar with the Pistons because he's old. He's on a cheap, I don't want to say cheap, but $25 million per year contract for a guy who can give you 20 points per game as that secondary creator. He's been able to play off the ball. He's been able to play on the ball. He doesn't really provide the same defensive presence that you would like. To be fair, none of these guys really provide much of a defensive presence. But I think he's a good cheap guy that you can play alongside Cade Cunningham. And I made another trade that kind of fills those gaps as well that I'll get to in just a second. The big question is, do the Kings feel like, okay, let's get off of DeMar's contract with getting Karis LeVert instead? And the Kings can obviously reroute Karis LeVert to another team if they wanted to do this trade, which is why I think the Kings will do it, just to get some money off and just get some picks back and just get off of their guys. The next thing I made, and this goes with the DeMar DeRozan trade, is trading Ron Holland and trying getting a young guy back who fits a bit better, and the trade looks something like this. So the let's do this. So the Trailblazers will acquire Ron Holland II, Marcus Sasser, and a 2027 top 14 protected pick, or if you wanted to, you could give up pick 21 instead. And the Pistons will acquire Shadon Sharpe and Vit Krejci. Now, why would the Pistons make this trade? Obviously, you're giving up Ron Holland, who's a defensive presence. He fits really well with that team. But I think for the Trailblazers, Shadon Sharpe, how do I put this? The Trailblazers have a lot of guards they're going to have to sort out this offseason, and I think Ron Holland as a wing fits better with their timeline and fits better with their team overall. And for the Pistons, you get a shooting guard who can come off the bench, or he can start if you rather start him. And he's another floor spacer and another creator with this team. He's a bit of a risk, but he's on a relatively cheap $20 million per year contract, and if he can stay healthy, which has been Shadon Sharpe's big issue, he can be a perfect backup scorer off the bench for you. Him and Jenkins off the bench would be a perfect backcourt duo to help Cade Cunningham when he needs to get his rest. Not to mention you get Vit, who's a very good floor spacer. He's a very good shooter, so that's just another spacer alongside Cade Cunningham. The only other things I would do is I would re-sign Jalen Duren. I would probably not do more than 30 mil, 35 mil per year max. Obviously, don't go like 40 mil, 50 mil or anything like that, but 30, 35 million per year I think would be good for a guy like Jalen Duren. If you needed to stretch it, make it like a back end where towards the end of his contract he's making 40 mil per year or something like that, you may need to do that, but it's up to you. I don't know. It's so tough to gauge what his worth is because it's a lot based off his potential. Like, don't get me wrong, he's a 19-point double-double center who's pretty good defensively as well. The issue is he's a very limited offensive player. So that's why I worry giving him more than 30, 35 mil per year. And now if you do still have pick 21 from like the DeMar trade or the Shadon Sharpe trade, because you may need to give pick 21, I would take Bennett Sturtz. I've seen him as a mock draft for a couple of these Pistons mock drafts. I like him because he's a lead guard who you can plug and play. He's from what I've seen, he's kind of like Fred VanVleet, like a little bit taller of Fred VanVleet. Just a guy who can plug and play. He can run the offense very well, and I think he can easily get some minutes with this team. And plus, between Duncan Robinson, DeMar DeRozan, Asar Thompson, that's a lot of wings that you can move up and play like the 3 or the 4 later on. So the team would look something like this now. You would have Cade Cunningham continuing to run the point guard I have Duncan Robinson starting at shooting guard, but you can change that if need be. DeMar DeRozan running the 3 with Asar Thompson at the 4, again, interchangeable if need be. And then Jalen Duren at the 5. And then off the bench, if you wanted to give minutes to Bennett Sturtz, you can. If not, it'd be Jenkins running the point guard with Shadon Sharpe at shooting guard. And then Isaiah Stewart and Paul Reed as well at the 4 and the 5. And then Krejci getting some minutes. And then Duncan Robinson would probably play like small forward minutes as well. And I really like this team now. You're getting rid of just the right amount of players so that it's not terrible for the team. And obviously the big thing that I don't like with this is you're not re-signing Tobias Harris, but I don't think his contract plus Duren's contract will work together if you're looking to get that secondary star, which in this instance we got DeMar DeRozan and Shadon Sharpe. So that's the main reason I didn't re-sign him. But honestly, yeah, that's about it. This team, I like how I rebuilt them. Obviously, I worry a bit about them not having a true power forward. Asar would run the power forward position. And then you would have... The shooting would be a little iffy with this team because Duncan Robinson is really the only shooter in the starting lineup. DeMar DeRozan, he can shoot. But he's a mid-range guy. He's not really a shooter. And Cade Cunningham can shoot, but again, he's more of a mid-range guy. He's more of a slasher. But then you have a ton of shooting off the bench with Jenkins, with Krejci, with Sharpe. Paul Reed can also hit the 3 if need be. So I like that there's a little bit of versatility with the team. But let me know what you think. Do you think the Pistons should go after any of these guys? Do you think that the Pistons should try and get a guy like Michael Porter Jr. or a guy like Brandon Ingram? Or do you think they should stick with the team that they have and just trust Jalen Duren to turn into that true second option? Let me know in the comments down below. And also, if I can focus up. And also let me know if you and also make sure to go and follow the TikTok, the Instagram, all that stuff. I keep going out of focus. I wish I could tell you why. I'm so sorry for that. This camera is bugging. That's on me, y'all. That's on me, y'all. But again, make sure to check out all that. And until next time, y'all. Peace.